I've always, even before I read your book, I was always a fan of Mike Posner.
Oh, I love Mike Posner. That's why we're kindred spirits.
Yeah, not only his music and his creativity and how great he is at that, but his whole arc.
Yeah, of his career.
Of his whole career, right?
He's like the epitome of groundedness in some ways. Like
now.
But I mean, like heroic individualism, like the
Exactly.
whole thing.
Yeah.
Like that's why he's in the book. That was such a neat. Man, part of my job that I love the most and why this is a core value of mine and I get giddy is I get to meet like so many fascinating people.
Right.
So interviewing Mike Posner was just like a highlight of the work on this book, because like he's lived this. I mean, he was chasing fame and women and money and trying to sell out shows and pop music.
He got it.
And he got it.
Yeah.
And then he was empty. That's like the goalpost is always 10 yards down the field. And then he's kind of had like this rebirth, is a much more, what I would say, soulful artist, but his new stuff's not nearly as popular.
Right.
Which is really interesting.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, why doesn't my book sell as many copies as someone's book who's like 10 hacks in 10 days?
Right.
I mean, I think that's just what it is.
The 10X.
Yeah, the 10X, the 10X book.
10X folks. Yeah. And then, Mike Posner, for people that don't know, you mentioned attained all this fame through his music. He got everything, right? He got everything that society tells you that when you get, you're going to be happy. He got all that. Still wasn't happy, went through some really stressful experiences, and then he decided to walk across the United States.
That's right.
Right? And I'm going to quote from your book. He says, "I'm not walking to see who I am. I'm walking to find out who I'll become." What do you think about that quote?
I love it.
I love it too.
I mean, I think a really, right, back to what I said in very opening is I like writing because I like words, because I think words give shape to things. And identity and self and like who we are is this amorphous thing. No one can name exactly what self is. You mentioned you went into neurology because the brain is like going to outer space. It's like the hard problem of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Like we still don't really know what self is. I think there are many different frameworks that can point at it. And I think one powerful one is it's a process of becoming. Or self is like a river.
Right.
Like it's there, you're here, I'm here, but we're also always changing.
Yeah.
And I think doing something like Mike Posner did, which is instead of touring with a new album and going on the night shows, to be like, screw it, I'm just going to walk across the country and like play at local parks for people with my acoustic guitar. That's one, kind of stepping off the heroic individualism track. And I think that quote is just like, I'm still becoming. Like, I don't have to be, I took a pill in Ibiza, Grammy, platinum, whatever, single star. That's a part of me, but I can become something else.
Right. Why? I think even like my reactionary sentiment to what you said about we're just this amorphous thing. There's no end goal. There's no something concrete that we become.
I didn't say that. I said we're like a river. So,
but
like
a
river
river
also has banks and boundaries, right?
But we're constantly becoming.
Yes, that
right?
I did
We
say.
don't become something.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
It's just a process of becoming.
And we leave artifacts, a journal paper, a patient that you helped, a book,
right.
a song, a memory. Like
right.
these are just artifacts.
Right.
Yeah.
But why is my reaction to that? And I think, other people might share this sentiment, and it's probably not a correct one, but nonetheless, I have it, that's not satisfying to me. Like, I need something that I become. I need to know that it's like, okay, then
so
wisdom
traditions confront this, and I think that this is what wisdom traditions are for, is to wrestle with these big questions. And the way to think about it that is most appealing to me is that you can imagine a canvas that is just this big blank canvas, and you're born with this canvas, and like that's you, that's your being. And then on this canvas is your doing. It's your family, it's your relationships, it's your paint. And it's all this paint that's on the canvas throughout your life. But the canvas is always there. Like, that's who you are. And then the canvas gets filled with stuff. And over time, it ends up with this picture. And I think, like, that's the metaphor. Like, life is art. That's how I like to think of it. But how I reconcile this is that, like, there is a me and there is a self that's here. And that's the canvas. But how that is filled that's the process of becoming.
So the picture
that you're painting, maybe that's how it becomes satisfying. Like that's your life.
But right, exactly. But that becomes what it becomes when you're done. So when you're done with life,
yeah,
right? When you move on,
and like that's
just
it.
Leave that behind.
Yeah, and that's terrifying.
That's
like,
super cool to me.
See, but to me,
also terrifying.
It's both, right? So like that's like you get to become and like you get to be the artist of your life. I mean, I think that's a beautiful way to think about it. It's super cool and it's terrifying because then you move on.
Yeah.
And I think like that is, I mean, we're getting real in this conversation. I think that is, that's something that I struggle with. Like this idea that in 200 years, probably no one will remember me. That hurts.
Right.
And I don't try to undo that. I don't try to tell myself otherwise. I just kind of like let that kind of stink. And I think the reason it hurts is because like I like people, and there's also a part of my ego that wants to be relevant. I want to be known, and I think that that's both really cool because it's empowering. Like YOLO, man. I only live once, and it's kind of crazy when you think about it because all this stuff that we do, like, it's going to kind of wash away.
I wonder how much the fact that you study philosophers and you study these people that are remembered after thousands of years, exactly what they said.
Oh, I'm sure
I wonder
that
how
has
much
an
that
impact.
plays how much that plays
I'm
into
sure
what
it's
you're
back
feeling.
to like reference points and comparison,
right.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel
that's a great point. No one's ever said that. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel that 100% of the time too. And maybe that drives me a little bit, especially when I was talking about I have this finite amount of time and I feel like I want to do something that, someone might remember me by, or someone might reference, some sort of publication that I put out. But
yeah,
it seems moot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.